Welcome everyone to the game between Praggnanandhaa and Hans Niemann at the penultimate round of FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. Hans Niemann has a big opportunity today if he manages to beat Praggnanandhaa with the white pieces, because Hans is on 6 points out of 9 while Praggnanandhaa is on 5.5 points out of 9. So the chances of Prag making it to the top are lower, but still, Hans versus Prag is such a amazing pairing. It's like the best, one of the best talents of American chess taking on one of the best players of India and also the world of chess. And Hans calmly adjusts his pieces. He's always been talking about getting into the candidates, becoming the world champion, and from that perspective, this game is super important if he wants to make it to the top 2. The players settle down. The round is about to begin, and we have the handshake, and off we go. Hans with the white pieces opens with 1 e4. Best by test, as they say. Praggnanandhaa, what's his response going to be? Will he go e5? Well, he goes for the Sicilian, e4, c5. Knight comes out to f3. And Prag goes knight to c6. Hans can go for the Rosolimo with the bishop to b5, and he plays it. Does not go for the open Sicilian. g6 played to get the bishop to g7, and white castles. The Rosolimo has become such an important opening in this entire tournament. You've seen so many games in this opening, so many different setups. Rook e1, and now black is usually going for e5 or knight f6. He goes knight d4, and that's an interesting choice here, because now you are attacking the bishop on b5. Knight takes d4. Hans like, okay, this is my preparation. Pawn takes. And now you have two approaches. One, you can strike in the center with c3, which Hans does, or you could just play d3 and continue. He goes pawn to c3, and Prag goes e6. He wants to bring his knight to e7 and castles. Knight to a3 played to get it to c2, to force the pawn on d4 to make a decision. a6 played by Prag. And now Hans brings the bishop back to f1. Prag develops the knight, and Hans can go knight c2, but then there's knight c6. So Prag is quickly getting the knight there. Pawn takes pawn taken. And if you take with the bishop, there's knight c2 and d4, which is the reason why Prag castles here. Very interesting. What Prag intends to do is get knight c6 and take that pawn with his knight. So Hans goes back and defends this pawn. And the knight goes to c6. Now the only way in which you can claim something as white is if you keep the pawn, goes d5, pushes the pawn forward. He takes on d5. He takes d5. And now knight to d4. Brings the knight into the center of the board. Pawn to d3 here. And now the pieces can be traded, but d6 made by Prag. And Hans takes on d4. Bishop takes d4. and he has an extra pawn, but they are doubled like this. For example, if queen b3, there's this very nice variation which actually wins for black, and if g3, queen h2 is hanging. So Hans actually then goes queen e2, and his idea is maybe bishop e3 to trade this off. Bishop goes to d7, and now bishop to e3. Maybe you can go rook e8, pinning here. I think Pragg has managed to create enough counterplay here. Also queen a5 with the idea of taking this pawn could be something. Queen comes to d2. And one way to play now is to take, and go queen g5, attacking here. But instead Pragg goes queen f6. Nice move. He's putting pressure on b2. Rook c1 played. So if you play bishop takes b2, there is rook c7, which would be very strong. So rook a c8, challenging the rook on the c file. And now Hans plays this very nice move, rook c4. Because if you take on b2, there's bishop to g5, which could be very unpleasant. So Pragg takes on e3. And Hans there was like, okay, that looks good for me. Rook takes on e3. Trying to consolidate his extra pawn. Queen to f5. Pragg now looking at the d5 pawn. And it's difficult to defend it. But look at that lovely move, g3. And the point is, if you take here, I'm going to play bg2 and start putting pressure on b7. So queen d5 has happened. Bishop to g2. And now queen to b5. Hans is finding all the moves to keep the pressure going. Rook b4, now putting pressure here. The best move is rook c1, queen c1, queen b4. But it's still very complicated after a3. But Pragg decides to go queen a5 and he pins the rook here. And Hans says, thank you so much Pragg for the free pawn. I now take it. Rook comes up to c7. One of the ideas is to take on b7 so that the d2 queen is hanging. Rook takes e8, bishop e8. Notice the times on the clock. 8 minutes for Pragg, 14 for Hans, with 14 more moves to make until move 40. Queen e1. Attacking here. Maybe trying to play rook e4 to trade the queens. The bishop comes to b5. And now bishop on b7 hanging, pawn on d3 under pressure. He brings bd5. And yeah, leaves it there. King g7, important move, because if takes rook b8 check is game over as the queen is hanging. So king g7, and he brings his queen up to e4, kind of consolidating everything there in the position. But Pragg has a small tactic now. He takes on d3 and he attacks the queen. So queen takes, the rook is hanging, but queen d4 check. So while the material has now evened out, the black king is in real danger. If you play here check, queen e1 and queen f1 is a mate. So that's the reason why, or bishop f1. So that's the reason why he goes a3, bishop e2. Once again, if rook b8, queen e1, queen f1, checkmate. So Hans needs to make space for his king. And so a move here, h4 or h3 makes a lot of sense. He thinks for a bit here. I believe bishop e2 by Pragg wasn't the best possible move. And he's going towards the h pawn. He finds it, h3. And now think about it. Rook b8 with the idea of check. If queen e1, I have king h2. Queen c5, offering a trade. If queen takes queen, it should be completely fine. But goes queen e4. And check on c1. King h2. And Pragg now in big trouble. Queen f1. He's trying to checkmate Hans with queen takes f2. But all that Hans needs to do is play queen e3 and defend that pawn. And you can see that now this bishop is incredibly strong. The rook is free to move. The black rook cannot come into checkmate as rook b7. White gets there first. So Pragg goes bishop b5, trying to block, trying to prepare this. Rook to c1. But now rook e4. Another fantastic move, threatening rook e7 check. King comes to h8. So check. No, the bishop controls, so can't do that for now. But a great idea could be queen d4 to attack the f6 pawn. And Hans Niemann, look at him. Zoning in. He has 7 minutes to work this out. Pragg down to his last few seconds. Queen d4. Attacks f6. King comes to g7. And now rook f4 is game over. He plays it. No way to defend f7. Rook cannot come here. Bishop takes. Pragg knows that the writing is on the wall. Hans Niemann has played an incredible game to down the top seed of the tournament. Praggnanandhaa resigns there. Hans moves to 7 points out of 10 to join the leaders at the top, making a strong claim for a spot in the candidates 2026. A great game by Hans here. And as you see Levon Aronian passing by, there was Nepo passing by, everyone were quite surprised with the result of this game. Pragg now has no chances, of course, to finish in the top, but Hans has everything to play for as he faces Anish Giri in the last round. Hans Niemann joining us. Hello, Hans.
Hi, Sagar. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Hans. What an incredible win from your end. A huge congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would love to go through the game with you if you don't mind, because at some point it felt like the opening didn't really go your way, right? There was not much of an advantage that was there.
Yeah, he had a quite deep preparation. So yeah, I always had the pawn, and I don't think it was that easy, but
I'll just
yeah.
bring up the board. Just a second. Yeah, there we have the board here. So you did play the Rosalimo.
In the opening, I underestimated castles. If you go to when I played, yeah, bishop, yeah, CD, yeah, castles. I really underestimated this move.
Because if bishop d4, you have knight c2 and d4, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that would have been great. But yeah, with this after castles, it's sort of hard for me to avoid this. So I thought, okay, let me take the pawn. The one really interesting moment was after d6. My initial plan was knight d4, bishop d4, queen b3. And I thought my queen is great on b3. And now there's actually bishop takes f2.
Wow.
King takes f2, queen h4, g3, queen h2, bishop g2, bishop h3, rook g1, and then either rook d8, wow. Let's say rook a8. Oh, no, rook f8 is better, rook f8. And then queen d1, rook e7, and then the rook comes, and like I could just lose. So,
oh my God.
This is why I spent so much time before playing knight takes d4, because I was like, no way this could work, and then I realized it did. So obviously I have to keep the pawn. So knight d4, bishop d, queen e2 is a bit counterintuitive because you don't usually want to, like, I'm blocking my bishop, I'm in front of my rook, but at least I keep the pawn. And then I can continue. Yeah, bishop. I thought I have the pawn. Queen d2. Here bishop takes e3. Yeah, 3 was probably more precise.
Instead of queen f6.
Instead of queen f6. Yeah, because I can't really take back with the pawn because of queen g5. So probably rook e3. Rook e3, and then, queen e3, something like, I don't know, she could maybe
queen a5,
queen f6. Queen f6. Yeah, queen a5, also queen f6. If queen b6, rook c8, maybe it's a bit too much. Yeah, but anyways, this was completely fine. But then once he allowed rook c4, you know, it seemed a bit uncomfortable because bishop takes b2, I have bishop g5.
Ooh.
And then queen g7, I have rook takes e8. And then rook takes e8, rook e8, d4.
Wow.
And then
Trapping the bishop.
and then b5, rook c7. So this was, yeah. So then he played bishop takes e3, rook e3. But now the issue is that, you know, then what did he played?
Queen f5.
Queen f5. Yeah, yeah.
And,
G3.
and your next move, I think we loved it a lot because to get the bishop out from here and giving up the pawn and suddenly creating another weakness.
Yeah, it was very concrete. The main point was after queen takes d5, bishop g2, queen b5. He should play rook c1.
Ah, yes, here, right.
But after rook c1, I have queen c1, queen b4, a3. And it's a bit unclear where the queen goes. Let's say queen b5. I have rook e8, bishop e8, queen c8. And things could very easily spiral out of control. And, you know, I always have checks because the black king is weak. Let's say he, you know, for example, king b8, king f8, sorry.
King f8.
King f8, bishop takes b7. And queen b2. I thought I'd play king g2 here. Because there's, yeah, now I can maybe threaten. Yeah. I wasn't sure. I could also play bishop takes a6. Let's say queen a3, bishop b5, queen a1, king g2, queen e5, bishop c6. And it's a bit hard for him to untangle here.
Wow.
That's so this was one idea.
Great calculations there, Hans.
And then, yeah, queen a5 is just very bad because bishop takes b7. For example, if rook b8, I have rook takes e8.
Yes.
Bishop takes e8. And then queen c3 is very strong.
Right. That's the only move,
a2,
actually.
Yes, yes. And then queen c7. And his rook is trapped.
Yes.
So it's possible he might have, you know, it looks nice with his pin, but the rook was quite poorly placed. And yeah, it takes queen e1. I sort of wanted to bring my queen to e4. Yeah, bishop b5, bishop d5. It's all quite forcing.
Did you start feeling here very ambitious at this point?
Yes, like, no, I was sure that you know, with his time, I thought that I really had to you know, to just sort of find a knockout blow. With his queen in the corner, yeah, queen e4.
But how were you assessing it during the game?
No, I thought I was winning because, you know, queen d4, like everything is hanging. His king is so weak. Yeah, f6 I underestimated. King h6, g4 is quite a nice win. I think it's the only move.
Wow.
f6, h4.
And then you switch your queen, right?
He's just getting mated. So, and it's support I give love for my king, right? Because he's checking. So yeah, a3 was a nice move, consolidating. Yeah, after a3, I think you should have played bishop f5.
Yes, that was the only move.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, but rook b8, he has bishop c8, and I wasn't sure how to continue. I was a bit worried, but yeah.
He went bishop e2, and then
and then h3
was nice because if you move your rook directly, there is a mate here, so you just take square.
Yeah, and it's like I think h3 instead of h4 is also quite precise because it gives you this h4. I don't know. I think it's important to keep the square on h4 for a queen or rook. That's the point. Because in all these mating sequences, I sort of need that, or I might need it. So h3, and also there's no bishop g4. Like so in the game, he went okay, h3, yeah, queen c5, queen e4.
Yeah, this entire play was also very accurate because,
for example, let's say pawn is on h4 in this position. Let's say h4, queen c5, queen e4, queen c1, king h2, queen f1, queen e3. He can play bishop g4 here. okay, I have rook b8, but I just, if rook b8, queen h3.
Okay, I mean, in this,
No.
maybe this is hanging.
Oh, bishop is hanging. Oh, I'm sorry. Bishop.
But I
No, no,
guess
no,
your point
no.
was you wanted to
No,
keep
no,
that square under
I wanted the
control.
square. Yeah, sorry. Bishop is hanging. But I don't know. I was thinking about these things. Like I thought h3, it sort of keeps things. So yeah, in the game he's just dead lost because after queen e3, all of his pieces are dominated and he has no attack. I'm faster.
E4, and then this queen d4 and rook f4. It's very nicely done. Like the rook kind of switched places from b4 to f4.
Yes,
and
yes, exactly.
Was beautifully attacked. Congratulations, Hans. This was, I think, a much needed win for you. For if you have chances to make it to the candidates top 2 spots, and now it's actually anyone's race, right? You are in the lead with Anish and Firuza.
Yeah, I hope. I guess I'm hoping that Vince doesn't win because that would give him a clear lead. I was quite fortunate and unfortunate to play Prague because it was quite a tough pairing, but I got a double white, which was nice. So hopefully I have a good pairing and play a fighting opponent. Because let's say next round I'm playing someone with black, and they only need to draw because my tiebreaks thankfully improved from this victory
Because of Prague,
playing
yes.
against Prague. So I guess thankfully everything's in my hands. So I'll hope for the best.
Hans, you have a lot of fans in the chat, and also if you look at our help chess counter, the last person who contributed has written "I love Hans" and has contributed 333. Do you feel the support? Do you feel like you are on the brink of a very big game tomorrow to make it to the candidates?
Yeah, well, it's certainly in terms of events in my career, one of my best events, and I've never had a chance to get to the candidates like this. So my rating is also I think, I don't know, I'm gaining a lot of ratings, so hopefully that'll lead to more invitations. But I don't know, I don't really feel that much pressure, to be
Really?
honest.
No? Because
I think
you
I'll
are
make it to
kind
the
of
candidates.
leading up to this, candidates and so on. This is what you want, where you want it to be.
Yeah, but if you think about this as your only chance, I expect to play many candidates or to qualify for many, or hopefully I don't have to play only one. That's the dream, of course, to only play one. But I think if you get in your head too much, it'll affect your play. So I also, this tournament it requires a lot of luck. It's not like you come to the Grand Swiss, you play your best chess and you win. Like it's an 11-round Swiss tournament. You need so much luck or help to win or to get top 2, right? Like even I have played amazing chess, but I'm not. It's still a huge feat to make it.
Who would be the most exciting opponent for you tomorrow for the last round?
The lowest rated.
Well, it's going to be tough. But before we let you go, Hans, if you could give your thoughts on the Bluebaum Vincent endgame. Ooh,
Vincent is winning.
actually, when you arrived, it was kind of even. Maybe
Just
in
to play
time
knight d8, I
pressure.
guess.
Yes,
Maybe knight h6. Knight d8, king f3, knight c6, or knights. But knight e6.
Still some hope, yeah, for black.
Because king e3, knight c5, and that rook endgame might be losing. It's hard to say. Probably lost.
And
because if king f6, you give a check. It's hard to say.
So this one,
yeah, I don't know.
Looking good for Vincent, yes.
The good thing, actually, maybe I want Vincent to win, because if Vincent's ahead of everyone, then everyone's gonna be fighting. I don't know, but I guess I have to see how my tiebreaks look.
Right.
But it's crazy that you see how boring classical chess is, or it can be. Like Blue Bomb, everyone's playing these such stupid lines against him, trying to, find a way to get a game. And if you look at Noterbeck and Blue, and how Vincent played, they both just took slightly worse positions with white. So he's very solid.
Right. And by the way, Arjun might lose this game right now with clear advantage to Yu Yangi. So Yu Yangi might make it to the leaders pack as well on 7 points. And then we have Abdu Sattarov versus Nihal Sarin here. Your thoughts here? Does Nihal have realistic chances of winning, or will Abdu Sattarov hold this?
I think he has good chances, but the position was so much better before that Nihal might be a bit dejected after spoiling it. But it's certainly Nihal's type of position. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm probably rooting for a draw.
Okay. Well, thank you, Hans, for stopping by. And also, congratulations on this win and all the best for tomorrow. Big game.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Guys, that was Hans Niemann joining us from Samarkand in Uzbekistan. A huge win over the top seed Praggnanandhaa. I think Hans is getting close to that candidate spot, Amruta.